What's going on, everybody? The NH Experience is back in the building. Nick Hamilton alongside Jackie Ray, producer extraordinaire Jake Warner, and we have a very special guest on this episode from our Southern California studios. She is the councilwoman of the 10th District of Los Angeles. She was also born and raised in LA. Love that. And she's dedicated 30 plus years of her life to public service. She was also the statewide director of former state senator and now vice president Kamala Harris. And she ran a small business too. We're gonna get into that and a whole bunch more. Let's get to know our guest for today. She is the one and only Councilwoman Heather Hutt. How you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing amazing. It's a beautiful day in Southern California, in Los Angeles, and in the 10th District. We got some sunshine. The birds are flying. I woke up, so
Amen.
Right? We all
Amen.
So I just want to tell you something about these names, right? My godson's name is Nick. My first child's name is Hamilton. My mother's name is Jacqueline.
See, this is why we connect. This is why.
Oh, I mean, I'm like, yes, his name is Nick Hamilton. What? Okay.
Hello.
Okay, so does your mom spell her name Jacqueline? Come on now.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Rest in power, mommy. Rest in power. You done sent me an angel. So,
Amen.
I'm excited about these names.
See, it all comes together like socks and shoes. So, hey, we are definitely here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us here on the show. We really appreciate it. Want to talk to you just about, ironically, you were born and raised in LA, but you were born and raised in a district that you serve.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any, I don't want to say premonition, but was there any inkling of like, this is the direction I want to go in and this is where the area I want to serve at some point?
No, but this is the area I love, honestly. And you have to think about it. Like, have I progressed? I don't know. I'm still in the same place that I was born in. So I came home from the hospital to Leimert Park, and so my very first fountain was that one right there on Vernon and Crenshaw, and walking around that fountain was a big deal to make it all the way around as a little kid. And the Vision Theater was called the Leimert Theater. And I remember walking there for movies with my mom, so it is the community that I love so much. I took ballet on Degnan, and it's just really meaningful to be here and be in a position to make change and make it better. Of course, in a collaborative way with the whole community. So, no, I didn't have any clue, but I do love it, like really deeply from the heart. It didn't just, it's not somewhere I thought, oh, I'll do that. No.
Fun fact, when I moved to California, it's like 13 years ago now, I lived in Leimert Park. That's the first place that I moved because my great aunt lived there. And there's so many people. And being from Denver, you meet people that are from everywhere. You rarely meet people that are live and work in the same place. Yeah, they might even be natives, but they live outside. They don't live in the same place that they grew up. But they're in that specific area. I met so many people that are like third, fourth generation. What is it about that area that people live and stay there?
Oh, so many things. First, I want to tell you something that's going to be even crazier. When my family left the slave block in Virginia, they went to Colorado. Just saying.
So when my family was chased out of Louisiana by the Klan, they went to Colorado.
So they came to Los Angeles to Leimert Park in 1926. So actually, we're almost 100 years right here.
Wow.
So we really have some pillars right in this community. It's tree-lined streets, and the neighbors are really nice. We lived in an apartment. It was big. It was 3 bedrooms, and there was a yard in the back, and it feels like stabilized housing, honestly. And I think that's why people like it so much. It's 8 miles from the airport, 8 miles from downtown, 8 miles, maybe 10 to the beach. Like, you can get anywhere from right there. And I think that has so much to do with it. And we had the Crenshaw Shopping Center, Baldwin Crenshaw, like you can walk there from home in Leimert Park. And that was a really big deal, especially when it was time to go get your school clothes. So it had a lot of great amenities nearby.
Yep.
You being a native Angelino, you've seen things come, you've seen them go, you've seen things change, evolve. When you look at today, when it comes to 2023, 2024 even, and you look at your district, obviously you talk about the world famous Crenshaw Boulevard. Gentrification has always been something that's really rallied the community around as far as having, discussions about the effects of gentrification and whatnot. From your standpoint and from your vantage point, especially in your district and just in the city itself, what are some of the pros and cons of gentrification that you've seen, or do you see any pros and cons?
I see that we have to have stabilized housing. It has to be affordable so that people have an opportunity to live where they want to live. And that's all over the city. So we have, since 2021, and I didn't get there until 2022, but since 2021 in our district, we have 2,000 units of affordable housing available in this district. And that makes a big difference when you're talking about who lives there and who doesn't. So it's really important to have affordable housing so that it is not gentrified in a space that were historically Black homes. Now, I understand, getting this great value for your home. My brother lives in the 10th too. He bought his house for $125,000. It's worth almost $2 million. Does he move? Where's he gonna get $2 million from? But he's not really interested because it feels good to live there, and his children are grown and everything else, but that's his home. So we have to make sure that predators don't come and get their homes from them. We have to make sure if they're seniors that their families have all of their documents in order so they can protect that wealth. And then we have to build housing that's affordable so that folks can live here.
Quick follow-up, when you mentioned that about affordable housing, like you mentioned about your brother who has been there for obviously quite some time. You talk about senior citizens and families that have been there for generations sometimes. But then you also talk about affordable housing, which means new neighbors, new families, new people coming into the neighborhood. How do you bridge that gap to where you could continue that community spirit and being able to have people who may not know you and not be standoffish, but be more of a community in a neighborhood?
There are so many ways. In CD10, we have neighborhood councils where people can join in or be on those boards and participate in community engagement and civic engagement, because that's the neighborhood council or boots on the ground for the city council. And they bring in information on what that direct community wants to see. They also weigh in on projects. So you should know that when a housing project or any kind of project, if it's commercial or if it's residential, you have to know that the neighborhood council does weigh in. So if you don't want 60 units, be at that meeting and say, hey, I don't want 60 units. I think that's too much density for our community. That's one way. Another way is that block clubs, and join your block club. Participate in what that's like. And they also have members in the block club that belong to neighborhood councils. They carry that message, again, boots on the ground. And then do the fun stuff. Go to the festivals. This past weekend, we had West Adams Jazz, and then we had 7th Avenue Jazz. And this Friday at 8 p.m. at Genesee Park, which is right on Fairfax, I got movies in the park. And then on Saturday, movies in the park at Leslie Shaw Park, right there on Jefferson. Go, take your blanket and meet your neighbor. Those are other opportunities. But in the 10th district, there are plenty of ways to get to know your neighbor and talk about things you're concerned about, and then meet me and bring it up. I need my trash picked up, and then I'll call sanitation and get that trash. So there are ways to connect.
I want to do a follow-up to that follow-up because obviously affordable housing is such a hot button topic right now. And I think one of the things that I've kind of learned as I'm covering affordable housing is what constitutes affordable. I work for the Long Beach Post, and affordable housing right now is that number is like at $2,000. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that would argue if that's actually affordable. So what constitutes, right, what constitutes affordable housing, specifically in the 10th district?
So there's a general matrix that talks about, income, how many people in the particular unit, and what is equal to what's affordable. Then we have two other subtopics that I always ask for, in my planning department, which is low and very low, so that the income level is different. So it changes exponentially, right? So we have the very low, we have low, and then we have affordable. So you have to know in that affordable category, there are some that are even, at the $1,200 mark. There are some that are at the $1,500 mark. And then the market rate is frightening right now to me. Frightening. I got 3 sons. I don't know if you guys know this, but I have 3 adult sons, and they're paying their rent, but they can't pay $4,200 for a 2-bedroom, which is what we're seeing some places. So that's why affordable is so important. So it's not that market rate that is not affordable.
Is that play into your politics at all? Because you have sons, and I know for a lot of the Gen Z especially, they're a little gun shy about the future because of how expensive things are and how difficult, and the model of, you go to college, you get a good job, and you're set, is not necessarily 100% true nowadays. So does that play into your politics?
Totally. Not just politics, just my lifestyle, just my life, period, right? Because I'm guiding from that lens of, I'm a mom. I don't know if it's true because I haven't seen the stats, but in California, I probably have more sons than any other elected official.
Oh, wow.
And I probably have more Black sons. I know I do on the city council because I'm the only Black woman. But but in the state that might be so as well. So when we're talking about unarmed response, when we're talking about equity, when we're talking about housing, when we're talking about homelessness or renter protections, of course I'm thinking it from those lens because I have real-time, real-life experiences with people who struggle, including myself. I've been in the game for 30 years, but it wasn't always easy. I was a single mom. There was a time that I fled uncomfortable. It wasn't physically violent. It was mentally controlling, which is part of DV. And I had to go into a motel with my little boys and then get the courage to tell my family that this is where I am and, I need some help. So I get that too. I know what homelessness, what DV is. I know what controlling is. I know what having $35 and trying to figure out how to feed 3 little boys. I didn't have a job, like trying to figure it all out. So I don't come from, new socks and drawers. I don't. I come from, trying to figure it out and depending on God.
Amen.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you talk about affordable housing. You just mentioned homelessness, and we all that's really another hot button topic, not just in your district, but around Los Angeles and even the state of California. When you look at the state of homelessness, we talk about Mayor Karen Bass's plan when she, her first 100 days when she filed for a state of emergency when it came to homelessness. But then there have been a lot of constituents that say, hey, what's really changed? Because they're not seeing the change that they have envisioned or what they think should be changed. So what changes with that? What are we missing?
Their eyes are closed. If they don't believe that the mayor is making change, their eyes are closed. And that's why I shake my head, because I did Inside Safe with her myself. So I don't know where you live, but if you ever went down La Brea between Stocker and Coliseum, you saw people on the side of the tennis courts at Jim Gilliam. We did Inside Safe. I talked to those people myself. I knew that they were service resistant because I was out in January when it was freezing. I'm talking to a woman in some hot pants. They were short, and her eyes are like this. And because she was on meth and she did not want services, but inside safe, she's gotten services. She's no longer inside. And honestly, did you ever drive down there and see the people?
Oh yeah, I drive through. I drive through there all the time. Those
little tents, those tubes that were on the grassy side. So I talked to that woman first, and I said, hi, anybody home? And then she said yes, and we had a conversation. I asked her, did she want to go in a shelter tonight? That was in January. It was freezing. And she said, no, I don't want to go in a shelter because they steal from you and they do drugs, and I'd rather not be in a shelter, and I was already beat. I don't want to be in a place like that. She was suffering domestic violence, and she chose that little grassy part on a dangerous speedy street. 64,000 people a day drive down La Brea, right?
Wow.
That was her safety. And then she was young, not gratefully young, but pretty young. And so I said, do you have any children? And she said, yes, my daughter's in the tent next to me. And so her daughter was a 20-year-old. And that was their, buckets, pails, food. And that's where they could save themselves. You understand? So first of all, it's heartbreaking. And it took 5 more times to go back to them, to get them to trust, believe. And even once they were moved into a bridge housing, because no shelter, remember, bridge housing, they didn't want to take their tents down just in case it wasn't what we said. Now, the daughter's in job training, and the mother's getting wraparound services. The mother's not ready for job training yet because she has to get herself mentally stable, but she is in therapy. So these things work. So I don't know who's saying they don't work. They're not looking. Also, 45,000 people is a lot of people.
Right.
But we did Inside Safe, La Brea, and King. I don't know if you saw the King Boulevard as well. I mean, Rodeo, Obama, sorry. That was 46 people altogether. And that took 5 times to go in and have a conversation. And it's a humanitarian crisis, but she's working really hard. Yesterday, we had a lunch with Tom Perez, who's intergovernmental affairs from the White House, to talk about our homelessness. And she took him on a Skid Row tour so he could actually see what's going on so that they could send us resources. So she's not playing. And I'm
I got you. For those whose eyes are open, and let's say those who want to, be able to continue the great work that's being done in the city of Los Angeles to find a solution to the homeless problem. And I always say this. I say it's not just up to the politicians, but it's also up to the constituent, because I think those two have to work hand in hand. So what can constituents do to be able to help provide solutions to this ever-growing problem?
So we have some programs. I'm going to look at my notes. Hold on. I have program notes. The LA Fire Department has a diversion program. So when somebody is having like a mental health crisis because they're homeless and you don't know who to call, you want to call 911, or you call the fire department, and you want the crisis incident response team.
Okay.
It's called Circle.
Okay.
And it's a community-led program. Or LAPD and Dee Hearst have a suicide prevention line. When you call 911, you ask for that as well. But we know mental health is a real issue. That's why I'm working so hard on our response, because everybody is not a person that is going to do harm to themselves or others. And so then have a therapeutic van in CD 8, 9, and 10 that also goes to answer those kind of crisis calls.
Nick and I, every election year, we do a lot to try to get people to go out and vote. We try to remind them that it's your local vote that counts the most, because that impacts you directly and immediately. Oftentimes what I hear, though, is that people feel that they are now in a position where they have to either vote for bad or worse. The confidence that people have in their elected officials has dwindled to the point where I believe it's critical. Do you feel that's true? And if so, how can we change the mind of the constituents to regain that trust for their elected officials?
Yeah, I'm the recipient of that, right? Especially in the district where so many people, have lost confidence. And so that's why I have to do the work. And I think that if you really look and see who's doing the work or who has the experience because they've historically done the work, then that will build confidence. But, feel free to ask questions to whoever is already in the seat or whoever's on the way and see if there's an alignment, because there should be, and there should be accessibility so that you can ask the questions you want. Fortunately, we have social media so that you could do some research. But my job is definitely to rebuild confidence. And I'm an open book. Sometimes it's raw, but I'm an open book to say I'm here to serve the people. And I'm working for 30 years. I wasn't the principal. I was always number 2 or 3 or 4. So I know how to, do this work at a community level.
Yeah, I think that with you, like, it's a little different because you do have that long track record. You live in the place that you were born, so it's a little different. But I know sometimes when I talk to people, their concern is, well, you know what? I'm not part of that money machine, and politicians are always going to be beholden to the people who line their pockets. So why would they care about what I say? What would you say to them?
Well, that's not really true. Well, for number one, there's a law that says that if you're doing business with the city, you can't give more than $250. So that's one thing. So there's no pocket lining unless it's like underhanded, which I'm not done. I didn't come this far. I ain't this old. Trying to get into no mess. So honestly, you have to think about that part too.
Right.
And I've been poor before, so I'll go be poor first. Number one, right? If you want to sleep at night, you do the right thing. And I want to sleep at night. I think I have a lot to live for, and I think I have a responsibility to my community to do the right thing. I have a responsibility to little Black girls because I've been the first, like the first statewide director for a U.S. Senator from California in 200 plus years. I owe a little girl to be number 2. I don't owe a little girl to say, oh, she can never be that because look what Heather did. I'm the first Black woman to be a city council person in this seat. In all the years of Los Angeles, I owe a little Black girl to be the next.
Right.
So I'm going to work in the way that shows the most integrity and gets the best results using the resources that the city has available.
Now I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I'll say I've seen you all around the city. I've seen you at the cycling events. I've seen you when you guys have dedicated new tennis courts in various parks. I've seen you at the Pan-African Film Festival. Matter of fact, I got a chance to speak with you on the carpet at one of the films. And the thing I will ask you is that when you look around, obviously there's been a lot of different topics that have gone on in the city council. Unfortunately, you deal with the racism issue that plagued the city council. Obviously, the recent sentencing of Mark Ridley Thomas. You look at what's going on in the 9th district. You being the first Black woman, obviously Marquise Harris Dawson being the other representation in the 8th district. Are you concerned at all when you look at such a diverse city like Los Angeles, with having diverse communities, different races, different genders, things of that nature, and people start to see that there's not, maybe feel like there's not enough Black representation? Is that concerning for you moving forward as far as making sure that there is Black representation, there are Black faces that people can come to that look like you and I, that could be able to voice their grievances or even just give you praise where it's necessary?
Ask the question again, because that was long, Nick.
Well, basically what I'm saying, like when you look at black representation, and like there's only two black city council people, yourself and Marquise Harris Dawson.
Well, Kern is still there.
Current is still there, right? But Current is still there. But there's some situations going on with that. But when you look at overall, is there a concern moving forward about black representation in the city council, where people that look like you and I can really feel like they're being represented, and they can come to you, whether it's voicing grievances or just giving praise for what you guys are doing?
So, a couple of things. There's erasure of any black contribution in the whole country, right? Mm-hmm. We see what's happening with books. We see what's happening in Florida, and so our job is to lift up our contributions all the way across the board and be available. And I'm available. In the short period of time that I've been able to be a voting member, I did a co-naming of Crenshaw Boulevard to Malcolm X because of the erasure. So that not so we know who it is, but so that children could say, hey, wait a minute. Right. On Jefferson Boulevard, the New Orleans corridor, because there was a direct migration, just like you said, from New Orleans into that space, so that we see representation. So it will spark educational interest because of the erasure. So in city council, we have to continue to work, and that's why I'm on the ad hoc committee right now, having conversations about changing the charter and increasing the number of council districts so that there is more representation. And an increase will allow LGBTQ, AAPI, and more Black representation. And so we are working on that to put it on the ballot for November.
Oftentimes when I talk to, go ahead.
As I hope that answered you.
It did.
Absolutely.
It did.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When I talk to people about these situations that are going on around our country and the anti-Blackness that we see that's happening in California, I feel specifically Black people often be like, "Oh, that's over there. That's not happening here." Would you encourage voters specifically to make sure they're paying attention to the politics that are happening around our country, and why?
Yeah, of course, because that's our history. We're talking about our contribution to the United States of America. You mean to tell me that you want to take out of the history books, like, was it just Benjamin Banneker? He wasn't even any kind of fighter. He was an inventor, like George Washington Carver. You want to take that out?
Right.
It's already watered down. How much time do we have? First of all,
we're on your time.
Let me just say this part. The history that we have in our textbooks were written by white people, not Black people. So it's already watered down, right? They already fixed it so it didn't hurt so badly. And it's still too painful for little Johnny? No, he should know that. And if he doesn't, you know what? We got to find a repository somewhere so we can archive the real deal. And
right.
That's how I feel about it. I feel very strongly about the contributions Black people have made to this country, and I don't want them to be removed ever.
And you've made some significant contributions as well, just not only in the district, but just your presence in the city. Like I said, I've seen you out at different rallies, even if it was outside of your district. The fact of you just showing up and having presence there, which I felt was very, very important, just for people to see that, because oftentimes it's not just what you say, it's how you move. And the fact that you've been able to move in these spaces is just remarkable. So I had to give you your props just for doing that.
But I always been going. They're not new. They just, I've been number 2, 3, or 4.
I know it.
It's not like I wasn't there before. They're not foreign. I love our city, and I'm here to do the work.
Well, speaking of doing the work, you do have an opponent in the upcoming election. Grace Yu, that is also seeking to run for your seat as well. I want to read a quote that she said, and I want to get your perspective on this quote. And she said, "For a decade, I've been a formidable critic of City Hall, which has failed to follow the law." End quote. When you hear that type of verbiage coming out of a candidate's mouth, or anybody's mouth for that matter, what are your thoughts when you hear that?
I feel like it's pandering to an audience. That I don't feel like everyone should be in this bucket of corruption, because they're not. And street services are still occurring, potholes are still getting fixed. It's because people are really doing the work. So I don't appreciate it at all. I don't appreciate her, focusing on that. That doesn't tell us what you're gonna do. That you're not showing me any history or ability. You're just showing me that you know how to criticize people. And it's not nice.
That's very well said, because I do think a lot of times that's what we do. We kind of read the headlines and we put all politicians into one bucket. And I think that for you as a politician to be able to stand on your own background and what you've done, it's not a question in there. I just want to commend you for the work that you've done. And I've heard you say a couple of times on this interview that you've been number 2, but that put you in the position to now be number 1. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Not a question, just a statement.
Thank you.
I mean, when you look, I mean, let me, because I heard a little birdie told me something about you, Councilwoman Hutt. I want to get this on the record. Now, I heard you are a dominant force in pickleball. That's what I've been hearing. You out here in these pickleball streets, and you doing some damage.
Let me say, I'm learning. I'm not. I'm learning, and people in the district have asked to put a pickleball in the district. So I'm trying to figure out how to satisfy the community.
I'm just saying, I mean, I thought you would have already done that. I mean, especially with you taking a pickleball and doing the work that you do. I mean, you could be modest on here, but we know the real deal behind the scenes. We know you doing that work in the pickleball in space.
I'm working on it. That's so funny. But I do want to figure out how to provide that in the district.
Absolutely. I think when you look at just different alternatives, and you talked about earlier about small business and you having a business, and you look at the small businesses that have impacted the city. What is there a plan to not only to help develop these small businesses, but have the access to capital for them to continue to thrive beyond the first or second year of them being in business? Primarily when you come from the Black and Latino communities.
Yes. So I got so much history, it's ridiculous. Okay, so I come from a small business family. Honestly, the whole point that I'm in government is a little off. So my grandfather was the first Black car dealer west of the Mississippi. He was right on Avalon, and that's where people went and got their cars from. So I really do understand the value of community and the value of a small business. My son is a vegan chef. He's a small business right now. My sister is a small business growing into a bigger business as a consultant. In my experience, really with the U.S. Senator and Vice President, we were always looking for ways to provide capital to our small businesses, especially through the pandemic. And so what grew out of that are some local community financial institutions. They're called CDFIs. And my recommendation to people that are trying to grow their small businesses, go to Urban League, because they have great help for small businesses. Vermont Slauson EDC, because they have a CDFI now available, which is since it's a community space. And Broadway Federal is a CDFI also. Those spaces have a different understanding of what a small mom and pop business is and how to help you grow with your business plans and so on. So I'm always making a recommendation. to look at our CDFIs as another resource.
You know, one of the things as a reporter that I covered specifically during the pandemic, when I was, reaching out to Black people and talking about why they were so gun shy to get the vaccine, it's definitely a concern about our healthcare system. Then you get to the other side of the pandemic, and now I'm working on a Black infant health story, and same thing. There's definitely disparities when it comes to how Black people are treated in the healthcare system. Do you have any thoughts on how that can change and we can start moving in a better direction to make sure that healthcare is equal across the board?
Absolutely. So I worked for many years again with the vice president as U.S. Senator on maternal morbidity and what those numbers really look like. For a Black woman who has, an MBA, she has a greater chance of dying during childbirth than a white woman on welfare. So what does that tell you about our system? It is skewed, and in many of our big systems, I believe that we need to have some cultural competency and implicit bias training, because when someone is about to have a baby, they go to their doctor, and if the experience isn't good, they don't go back.
Right.
And this is, where people get preeclampsia, they don't even know it. So many people get other diseases that could be prevented if they do all the prenatal care. But if their experience is bad, they don't feel like they're with a trusted resource. It may not be the doctor. It might be the receptionist, or it might be the nurse. If they don't have that a good experience, then things don't work well. I also recommend doulas. If I weren't where I am right now, I would have gone and got a doula certificate, because I feel like I got something to offer, right?
Right.
We're missing a grandma generation. I don't know what took it out. I don't know if it was drugs or what, but we're missing a grandma generation that will help people through maternal care. So we have to go back to the neighborhoods and do things like get a doula, get a midwife, have conversations, and support our community clinics that have those options available.
We are celebrating 50 years of hip hop, and I know you are a hip hop head, primarily West Coast. I know you throw up the dub in your backyard. I know how you do it. It's okay. What is it?
My son is a rapper, right?
I heard.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard about it.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I need a link so I can listen.
Okay. He's Hugh Augustine, the MC.
Yeah, he's dope. He was down with Villain Park and
that's right.
Blackout.
That's
My
right.
man DJ Coley Cole. Yeah. Smoke. Yeah, good brother. I just recently found out that was your son, by the way. But
look at him. Does he look?
Listen. You know what? I don't assume anything, because you know what they say about assumptions. So I'm going. I had to find out on my own. I said, "Oh wow, that's your mom. Okay, cool. Yeah, he's definitely a dope MC." And I'm not just saying that because you his mom. I've said that away from that. So yeah, Hugh Augustine is on point. I love what he's doing, especially with food, and how he's trying to ingratiate that into our culture and trying to eat healthy and just have a better lifestyle. So I love what Hugh Augustine is doing with that as well. But you talk about West Coast hip hop. I got to get your top. Give me your 10 favorites. I got to get your 10 favorites.
Everything got a story, right? So my ex-husband did road management for Run DMC. He did Up in Smoke in 2000. So NWA, he was at the hospital with Easy before he passed away. So I got everything got a story. Wow. Right? So my number one is my son, of course. Okay, so right. Top 10. So that's Hugh. I'll put it in. This is not an order.
Okay.
My number one is my son. Warren G and Exhibit. And guess what? They're going to play for us. We have a crosstown rivalry. The LA Classic will be on October 26th at the Coliseum, and they're going to be the halftime. So I'm so excited about them being local and doing the work. Snoop, of course. Very interesting. Well, my kids got shot. I don't know if you guys know this part, but oh shoot. Oh, I can't think of his name. The marathon continues.
Nipsey Hussle.
Nipsey Hussle.
I'm sorry, I lost it for a second because when I think of them getting shot, it kind of takes me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nipsey's mother is a nurse and worked on my son when he was in the hospital, oddly.
Oh, wow.
So Nipsey, where am I at? Kendrick. Listen, Yo-Yo, she held it down for the ladies and always had. So we're talking West Coast, right? Well, LL, even though he's not from the West.
Oh, LL's legendary. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, he was on those tours when my ex-husband worked. He never took his hat off. It was very cute. Let me see. Who else?
Put Jay-Z on there anywhere?
Oh, I thought we were just doing West Coast.
Well, you threw somebody who wasn't West Coast,
okay,
and I just took the opportunity.
So yes, Jay-Z. Listen, Public Enemy, Jay-Z, Biggie. Like I could go, and I think Puffy's a genius, by the way. And just because we said rap, I'm gonna say Prince because.
Oh,
you
hands down.
You don't want everything with me now. You just say like you it.
The GOAT, Prince? Yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
How do you live in music in this era without Prince?
Exactly.
And
I mean,
I love music. I just feel like it's good for the soul.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if you had a song that would be the theme song to your life thus far, what song would that be?
A theme song to my life.
I know that was a hard one, right?
Yeah. What are the young girl rappers? What are the names where they say because girls are players too? No,
Coi Leray. You want some Coi Leray? Okay, all right.
That's taped, huh? Wow.
Look, you just went over all of Gen Z, so go with that.
I'm in the game, right? I'm in the game.
Yeah, as you should. Yeah, I'm with that. When you, I mean, you do so many different things. Obviously, you have so many responsibilities. But what do you do? We always talk about mental health. We talk about balance. What do you do to kind of unplug and unwind and just recharge to make sure that you're at your best when you come to the office?
Pray.
Amen.
Prayer is my go-to. Prayer is so easy. You can hit it real quick in the elevator. Lord, please. Prayer, puts me in a centered space and helps me think of others and really pray for others. So prayer is my self-care.
I love that.
What does activism mean to Councilwoman Hutt when you think about activism and especially your involvement with activism?
Speaking truth to power. If the bank ain't right, you need to talk about it. If the unions are not getting the amount of money that they deserve, you need to tell the big corporation that this ain't right. I think speaking truth to power is the way to do it. I think you have to do it in community with one voice.
If you had a dinner that you could sit down with anybody living or has passed on, and you have 5 plates, which is five people you can invite to dinner.
What are
who would they be and why?
Giving you these on the spot questions.
No. And no one's ever asked me these things before either. So 5 plates. I think Frederick Douglass and I also would sit down with probably let me think. How much time do I have to think? Okay, so Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King. I also would want to understand what it would be like to be like a Josephine Baker, oddly enough, because of her age and she broke some barriers, at a time. Let me think. I also oddly Biddy Mason. So do you guys know Biddy Mason was born a slave and came to she owned most of downtown, and her grave is in East LA, and once a year my church goes to her grave.
Wow.
Celebrate her birthday, right? So how many is that?
That's 3.
That's 4. That's 4.
4 with Biddy Mason, and I can't call her name. Underground Railroad.
Harriet Tubman.
Harriet Tubman.
Yeah, I would want to talk about the barriers they broke, and those people had no fear. In a time where we were still, 3/5 of a man, and they were very human.
Yep.
And saved a lot of lives.
Well, my last question is real easy. If you are on an island and you can only watch 3 movies, what movies would they be?
Oh, I'm the worst when it comes to movies. You know why? It's entertainment, so they don't really stick.
So no movie sticks with you?
They don't really stick. But,
okay.
Entertainment. So, okay.
Yep.
Let me give you 3 movies that I like. I like Pulp Fiction.
That's a great movie. That is a great movie. I don't care what nobody say.
I like Lady Sings the Blues.
Okay, also good.
And maybe She's Gotta Have It.
Oh, that's a great movie too.
That's a classic.
I just knew you were gonna say Purple Rain. I don't know why I thought you were gonna say Purple Rain.
Well, the reason I didn't say Purple Rain is because I was that age at that time. And so I went to First Avenue. It was.
Oh, gotcha.
My boyfriend played for the Minnesota Vikings, so I went around there. It wasn't as
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, we gonna definitely have to have you back, Councilwoman Hutt, because you got some stories, and the fact that the juicy part came when we got a rap. So that's what makes it good.
Yeah.
So we gotta bring you back on. You mentioned your ex-husband being there with Eazy-E, and the news just broke about Eazy-E getting a street dedicated in Compton just in time for his birthday and 50th anniversary of hip hop. So I'm glad you talked about that. We definitely got to get those stories out of you another time. I thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join us here on the NH Experience. Really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you overall and what you're doing and continuing to do and overcoming barriers yourself as you go through the day-to-day to serve your constituents and serve the people. Let everyone know, please, where they can continue to keep up with you and find you on social media.
Heather Hutt, just Heather Hutt, heatherhutt.com. That's my website for my campaign. Heather what is it? CW_Heather Hutt. That's my IG. Those are the two different ways that you could reach me. And I got an office on Pico and Cloverdale. Stop by. City Hall. Oddly, City Hall, my office number is 420. I'm just saying. Is that funny?
That's hilarious.
And on that note, y'all, we are out of here. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.